huge result for Arsenal Football Club today. After that statement victory at Selhurst Park to start the season last week, they were back in action today in North London for their first home match of the new season, and they've won it. They were playing Leicester, and they, at points, played Leicester City off the park. And Mikel Arteta's team have made it successive wins to start this season. That is huge. Arsenal sit only behind Manchester City in the league table. Now, of course, you don't put any real seriousness or stock in a Premier League table until you're, at least half a dozen games in. But you'd rather be there than not. And for that reason alone, it is significant. The fact that Arsenal have beaten Leicester, it's huge, but there's always context. And they have beaten a Leicester side that I think everyone knows how I feel about Leicester. You know that I think there's a ceiling. You know that I do not rate Brendan Rodgers. And we have to acknowledge that this Leicester side are being heavily distracted by these persistent transfer speculation rumours over the exits of such key players. You know, they're constantly talking about... Did you see what happened at the Emirates today with Tielemans? When he came on, the Arsenal fans gave him a standing ovation. They were singing, "You're going to play for the Arsenal." So that's got to be a really weird sensation for him. But obviously, the links with Chelsea and Fofana, James Maddison and Newcastle. So it's a really weird time for this Leicester team, but we cannot take anything away from Arsenal. And we must talk about man of the match, the dazzling talent that is Gabriel Jesus. What a signing, what a player, what a performance, what a man. He is exceptional. There is no surprise here. He has hit the ground running at the Emirates, as many people thought he would. I certainly suggested that would happen. I think everybody that is highlighting any mistake that I have made in my previous predictions for this season, they must acknowledge that Gabriel Jesus is a player that I have spoken so highly of and told the world that he will light up the Emirates. He is an artist, a brilliant football player, and a guarantee. And you do not get guarantees in this game very often, but there was never a doubt that Gabriel Jesus would land at Arsenal and score goals. And that is why, just before he signed for Arsenal, I put a plea out on this very YouTube channel where I begged Chelsea to hijack the deal. Chelsea was so desperate for a striker, so desperate for somebody who was prepared to run the channel, so desperate for somebody who was prepared to press from the front, and so desperate for somebody with a proven track record to score goals. Gabriel Jesus was available. He wanted to move to London. And the team who were in the Champions League didn't get him. Such a mistake. But the only winner here is Arsenal. They have signed a gem. 2 goals, 2 assists today. Heavily involved in every single goal that Arsenal scored. Could have scored more. Probably should have scored a hat-trick. Missed that open goal. But we cannot take anything away from the quality that is Gabriel Jesus. What this says about Leicester, though, I think they're in trouble. They have only signed a free agent, only Alex Smithy so far, and they blew that lead last week, didn't they? They had a 2-goal lead in their own top-flight opener against Brentford, and that finished 2-2. So there needs to be some changes there. There is work that needs to be done. But today is all about Arsenal and Gabriel Jesus. What a player. I mean, he could have probably scored about 5 today. That challenge from Ndidi that came in, I mean, that stopped a certain third. I think that probably makes Gabriel Jesus top goal scorer in the Premier League already. Something that he will be desperate to cling on to. I think that's a bit optimistic. But he is certainly a class player. And what we learned about Arsenal today is huge. If you take one thing from this review, this is it. This is what we learned about Arsenal today. Arsenal came back when they most had to, when it was crucial, when they conceded a goal, when it felt like the momentum was moving away from them, when it felt like there was a chink in their armour, when it felt like perhaps the tide was moving against them. Wallop. And that is a sign of a team. That is a sign of resilience. That is a sign of a good manager. That is a sign of heart, spirit, tenacity, and fight. And I have to credit Mikel Arteta with that, because that kind of attitude starts at the top and filters through the entire club. That is the one point to take from today. When it really mattered, when they had to score goals, when it felt like the points could be slipping from their grasp, they reacted. Previous Arsenal teams in recent memory would have potentially drawn and maybe even lost the game today. So it's a sign of development. Look, it's very early. The night is young. Let's see what's going on in February, March before we make any bold statements about this Arsenal team. But one thing is for sure, they looked solid today. The way they were passing the ball, the way they kept it, towards the end of the game, intelligence. They just looked after the ball. They nurtured it in the way that they had to. So I do think that it was very impressive from them. And you've got to remember that at various points, not only did Leicester have a lifeline, but they had a bit of a gift. The Saliba own goal. Saliba was magnificent today, by the way. I don't want to focus on the own goal. It's not relevant to his performance, but it had a significant impact on the game. And that Saliba header past Ramsdale as he tried to intercept the header from the Justin cross could have been slightly different, but overall magnificent from Arsenal. Martinelli again on the score sheet. What's that now? That's scored or assisted 6 goals in his last 6 Premier League starts. It's all happening, isn't it? And this dream that Arteta was trying to put together, this effervescent, lively, interchanging front four that all share the goals. There doesn't need to be that archetypal centre forward because nobody needs to score 30. But 4, maybe even 5 need to score around about the dozen mark. That is possible when you introduce Martinelli. That is possible when you introduce Gabriel Jesus. That is possible when you subtract Alexander Lacazette. That is possible when you aren't relying on Eddie Nketiah to be the main man. So what we need to acknowledge and what is coming to fruition for Arteta, for Arsenal, is simply this. The transfer window was a huge success. Everything that you are seeing about this Arsenal team, both at Selhurst Park and today at the Emirates, it's all about the new signings. Jesus, for obvious reasons, man of the match, top goal scorer in the Premier League after 2 games, involved in everything good that Arsenal did today. Zinchenko, looking great. Saliba returning, kind of like a new signing. Not a new signing, but a testament to the intelligence of Arteta, because they could have recalled him last year when arguably they needed him. In fact, not arguably they needed him, when they needed him, but they chose to preserve him, let him learn more, so that he comes back this season as a finished article. So Jesus, Zinchenko, Saliba have changed the entire shape, the entire complexion, the entire feel around this team. Arsenal now look properly competitive. They have a spine, they have a resilience, they have the guile, the creativity, the heart, the aggression, and what else they have is that, that quality, that extravagant exuberance, the unpredictable. There is something good going on here. They're thrilling at times. They're resilient at times. And they are 2 perfect words to use about a football team. So like I say, it's early. It's very early. But so far, so good for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. I am now heading to Twitch to do a live stream of the Manchester United Brentford game. I hope to see you there. Come join. See you in a bit.